This is the Louie T Network.
And then my team went 6-10, and we ain't smell the playoffs. Then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs.
Who else could it be? Me. Your man. Louie T. Welcome to not lockdown coverage. Wildcard Weekend 2017 NFL Playoffs. Kicking off the 2017 NFL Playoffs with another game, this time in the NFC. We started with the AFC 4-5 seed matchup. Texans took care of business versus the Oakland Raiders. Could another home team successfully defend their house, take care of business, and move on to the divisional round of the postseason? We're looking for that in this game. Seattle Seahawks hosting the Detroit Lions. Talked about the Lions and their inability to win of late, and how would that affect them going into the postseason. They had been struggling on the offensive side of the football in a number of contests, especially in the second half of games, not necessarily in the first half, as we saw against the Cowboys, scored 21 in that half, but didn't score again in the game. They struggled all night long in this game. The officials did not help, but let's not blame the officials. We'll get to all of that here in a second. But first and foremost, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by simply subscribing to the Louie T Network on YouTube. Also, I'm on Twitter. Was on Twitter all day today, whether I was tweeting or going live. I was on Twitter all day. You need to go ahead and do that if you haven't already done so. So you need to follow me on Twitter at In The Lab Room is the Twitter handle. Also, I'm on Facebook. In The Lab Room is the Facebook page. Like the Facebook page. All of my social media platforms right there. Scrolling up the screen. You can't miss them. Go ahead and do what you need to do. Subscribe, follow, like. All right, with that being said, let's jump into this game. Seattle Seahawks hosting the Detroit Lions, 6 seed versus the 3 seed. Talked about at halftime how Seattle ran the football in this game with reckless abandon. The Detroit Lions had no answer for it in the first half. And I said, look, I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe that they're going to be able to continue to run the football the way that they did in the first half. Well, they continued to run the football in the second half the way that they ran it in the first half. Lions simply had no answer for the Seattle Seahawks rushing attack in this game. And before we get to any breakdowns, before I give any salutes out, let's go ahead and nip the whole officiating thing in the bud right now. Look, you know it's Seattle. We talked about this at the top of the program. We talked about this before the game took place. We've talked about this throughout the regular season, okay? You already know when you go to Seattle, you have to not only play the Seahawks, you also have to play the officials. You know that what happens in Seattle stays in Seattle. So let's not blame the officials. Did they have a great game? No. Was it somewhat lopsided in some of the calls that were made? Sure it was. But guess what? The Detroit Lions did not help themselves in this game. Penalties, drop passes, mistakes. You can't do those things on the road against a team that's better than you and expect to win. That's what they did in this game. Anquan Bolden with a couple of personal foul penalties. Come on, you want to win or you want to lose? You want to go home or you want to advance? What are you trying to do? Because it seems like you're trying to go home. You can either go home or you can either go to Dallas. They wanted to go home, well then go home then. The mistakes that they made in this game, the drop passes, Ebron with drop pass after drop pass, Bolden with a drop pass, TJ Jones with a drop pass. The list goes on and on with all of the drop passes in this game. You can't win like that. Marvin Jones drop pass. Bobble, drop. Seemed like the only guy offensively that wanted to catch the football and make plays was Zach Zenner, who, by the way, I said this on Twitter, my favorite white running back in the league now, and I know there are not many of them, okay? He's not competing with a bunch of people for that title. But I'm telling you right now, I like Zach Zenner, the Z-Man, a lot. And he came to play tonight. And he's been playing ball over the last 3 weeks or so. Really impressed with him. I think he needs touches. Even when everyone comes back, Amir Abdullah, AA, comes back, and of course, one of my favorite and most unheralded backs in the league, Theo Riddick, comes back, I still think Zach Zenner needs to touch the football a little bit. And that's a crowded backfield once everybody gets healthy. And I think he needs to be a part of it. I like me some Zach Zenner. He's won me over. Let's get to the Seahawks, though. To the victors go the spoils. They get it done 26-6 in this game. They dominate. So let's talk about what they were able to do in this game. You got to start with the offensive line. I want to give credit to both offensive lines actually in this game. I thought Detroit, with a couple of backups in there, actually were serviceable in this game. But I thought the Seattle Seahawks offensive line took the cake. They were the difference in this game. And for all of the flack we've given them all season, I know I'm right here. Look, I told you, when I'm wrong, I will step up and admit that I'm wrong. I'm not one that's egotistical, that has to be right all the time. I'm going to say what I feel. You can agree, you can disagree. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, I'm going to give you my opinion. I speaks the truth. Y'all know what I'm bringing to you. So when I tell you that their line stinks, they stink. But they showed up in this game. Tom Cable, and I heard Chris Collinsworth say over and over again that he's up for consideration for some jobs and he's got some interviews. I don't know about all of that. We've seen the Cable guy. We've seen him get a job before and how he did out in Oakland. Maybe the second time's a charm for him, but I'll tell you what, he did a masterful job tonight with these guys. I don't know if they saw something on tape or if they just balled out of control, but they balled out of their brains tonight because that run game was unstoppable tonight. And I thought the Lions linebackers let them down. They did not fire off. Look, shoot your gun, bang, bang, shoot your gun. Don't stand there. Allow the double team to get to the second level and get to these linebackers and keep that running back clean. And I thought they did an excellent job on those double teams, did the Seattle Seahawks up front. I actually thought they did a solid job after the first quarter, maybe half of the second quarter, where they struggled to protect Russell Wilson. And really, you could probably just say the whole first half, they didn't do a great job of protecting Russell Wilson. I thought they did a much better job in the second half of protecting him, giving him time to survey the field and even push it down the field and make some throws. Russell Wilson's numbers were much better than I anticipated because the first half, I thought he actually struggled. I thought he was a little off. Second half, he was a much, much better. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just ran the football down the throats of the Lions. They were on their heels. You didn't know if it was a run or a pass, and that gave Russell Wilson some time to make some plays. And I thought he was much sharper in the second half of this game. And again, the numbers bear that out. And so they were able to do whatever they wanted to do on the offensive side of the football. When you can run it the way that they ran it, they already had over 100 yards rushing in the first half. Thomas Rawls eclipsed the 100-yard mark. We talked about that at the halftime break, that he had already eclipsed 100 yards at halftime. And that train didn't stop moving, whether it was him or Alex Collins. They were still running the football in the second half of this game. The Lions failed to make the adjustments necessary, even though you saw them trying to run some stunts inside and force them to get to the outside where the help was. It doesn't matter. They still were giving up big chunks of yardage on the ground, which then opened up the passing game because once you're giving it up like that, you have to commit an extra defender to the box. And that's when you find yourself falling into the trap of allowing guys to have one-on-one matchups like Doug Baldwin down the field, like a Curse, like a Jimmy Graham, like a Paul Richardson. All of a sudden, P. Rich is in business and in vogue in Seattle. You lose Lockett, you gain P. Rich. All of a sudden now he's out balling, making one-handed grabs like he's Randy Moss or something. It was ridiculous tonight, the performance that he put on. All of a sudden now, the Seahawks team, they played the type of game that can build confidence for a team that I told you already had the most experience in the NFC in terms of playoffs experience. So if you're looking for a team that's a sleeper that no one's really talking about anymore, everybody's hot on Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, everybody's talking about the Cowboys, Matt Ryan for MVP. No one's talking Seattle Seahawks football. This was impressive. Okay, I'm not going to jump overboard with this, but this was impressive because the offensive line showed out tonight. That was the thing that worried me offensively. See, the defense with this team, it comes and it goes. We know Detroit isn't the greatest offensive juggernaut right now because of Matthew Stafford's hand and the running game, which has been non-existent all season long. We know that they're limited offensively, okay? But they still needed to go out and stymie them, and they did that in this game, only giving up 2 field goals, not surrendering a touchdown in this game. That's impressive. And then to turn around and do what they did offensively and score 26, which I didn't think they were going to be able to do in this football game necessarily. That's impressive as well. I thought Seattle did some really good things in the second half of this game, and I thought the defense showed up when they had to, got stops. And it always helps when the opponent self-destructs right in front of your face with drop passes and penalties that kill drives. So the Seahawks did what they were supposed to do with the gift that they were handed in this game. The Lions, they did not want to win this game. And so Seattle said, if you don't want to win, don't worry. We know what to do with this. And they took it and they ran with this victory 26-6. The defense was good. It was not great. I thought the Detroit Lions did move the football, but they self-destructed in this game. And that was, to me, the end-all, be-all in terms of them having any type of opportunity in this game. You can't make the type of mistakes, have the drop passes on critical downs and distances. You can't have the personal foul penalties. You can't have the false starts. You can't have all of the things that they had in this game and expect to win. And so the Lions lose this game. Seattle goes out and dominates 26-6. And I think the biggest takeaway from this game is the offensive line. If you can get this kind of play from them the remainder of the postseason, you got a shot in Seattle. I don't know if you're going to get the same results in the run game that you got tonight against this Lions football team, but if you can get the offensive line to protect Russell Wilson and run the football anywhere remotely close to what you got tonight, you're going to have a really good chance of being in the NFC Championship game yet again if you're the Seattle Seahawks. And you already know where you're going. Unlike the last game that produced a result where we don't know where the next team is going to go, we already know that this Seattle Seahawks team is heading to Atlanta to take on the Falcons, a rematch of the 2012 NFC Divisional Round playoff game. If you remember, a game in which Russell Wilson had the Seahawks on the verge of winning before Matt Ryan went natty ice on those boys, took them down the field in about 30 seconds and set up a game-winning Matt Bryant field goal to send the Falcons to the NFC Championship game. So that should be plenty of fun. Remember, these two teams met earlier this season, and the Falcons feel like they were robbed out in Seattle. A non-call on a pass interference that probably should have been called on Julio Jones that really decided that game. Falcons were up, had that game. Matt Ryan throws an interception, and then they don't get the pass interference call. All those things contribute to a loss late in that game to the Seahawks. So that should be fun, a nice little rematch of a game earlier this regular season. You go to the Detroit Lions in this game, and they've struggled to win games of late. Obviously, I told you that in the breakdown for this game, and I talked about that at the halftime break. I didn't realize it had been 58 years since they won a playoff game or won a championship. The last time they won a playoff game was like 1957, which is asinine. I hadn't realized it was that bad, but it's that bad for the Lions, and that streak continues as they don't get it done here, 26-6. I thought that they did some solid things in this game. Early on, they were able to establish a run with Zach Zenner, the Z-Man, but that didn't last very long. But Matthew Stafford is who you want the football to be in his hands, and I just didn't think that his receivers helped him tonight. I thought he put the football on the money enough for this team to have a shot in this game, and I didn't think his guys came to play. And then you add in, like I talked about earlier, the penalties and the mistakes that they made. And it's, look, you're in Seattle. We already know this. Don't complain to me about the officials. I know you want it to be better. It's the playoffs. They need to be better. I get all of that. I hear you. But you know what you're going into when you go to Seattle. It just seems to be that way. Goodell was there in person to see this take place. It doesn't matter whether Goodell is there or not. You're going to have to play the officials as well. But the one thing you can't do is make mistakes on the road and expect to win. You can't push a guy with the official standing right there. You can't push a guy and mush him in his face with the official standing right there and not expect to get a personal foul penalty call. You can't drop the football on third down twice. You can't drop the football wide open in space and not expect to give up some opportunities to the opposition deep in your own territory with a chance to make a big play and potentially flip the field position. Instead, you bobble it 3 times and drop it and end up punting from your own goal line and giving up great field position that leads to more points for the Seattle Seahawks. Those are the types of things that are going to lose you a game on the road, and that's what the Lions did in this game. Defensively, I just felt like they didn't have an answer for the run game, and I felt like the linebackers were the ones that let them down. You got to find a way to get to these gaps, close them up. There were too many big gaping holes. I'll give you an example, the touchdown run. Okay, you got Justin Britt on his knees blocking Haloti Ngata. And you got Josh Bynes standing right there. And instead of him firing, shoot your gun, bro, bang, bang. You see it. There's nowhere for him to go on the right side of this formation. There's a big gaping hole on the left, though. Shoot your gun, take off, and go much faster than slow. Instead, he hesitates, gives Thomas Rawls a running head start. And then by the time he decides, I'm going to go now, I'm going to react, it's too late. He's got a full head of steam, and he's off into the end zone, basically untouched, 6-yard touchdown. That's the type of night it was for the Detroit Lions on the defensive side of the football. Guys not being aggressive, but being on their heels, and it hurt them in this game big time as they lose 26-6. Really disappointing effort offensively with all the drops and the mistakes. Really disappointing effort defensively for a team that, for the most part this season, played well defensively. I did not see this big letdown on the ground coming in this game, and it happened, and it happened in a major way as they lose 26-6. Let's get to some of your comments from this game. Wow. Archangel says, bring on the Seahawks. We owe their asses an L. Hashtag revenge game. Hashtag Julio on call. Okay, we're going to see what happens. Like I talked about, I just said that about 2-3 minutes ago. That's a revenge game for Falcons fans. And that was a big time non-call, no call in that game. We're going to see what happens. Now tables are turned. Hawks are having to travel out to Atlanta as the Battle of the Birds. We'll see which one reigns triumphant in that game. That should be a lot of fun. Weeble says, my bad, Lou. LOL, you all good, man. I don't know what you apologizing for, but it's all good. Archangel also says, like I said, you never want to play Seattle in Seattle because not only do you play them and the 12th man, but you also got to play against the refs. And you know my birds about that first hand. Yeah, and we saw that the last time you were out there with that non-call. So, and we all know this. Detroit can speak to this. They were out there on a Monday night just a season ago, and they know how it goes. So everyone's got stories to tell, horror stories about traveling out to Seattle and not having it go your way. Bottom line is you can't self-destruct, which is what the Lions did in this football game. Archangel says, still pissed about that Julio no call. I hear you, man. That's the second time you didn't mention that. I'm going to need you not to mention that again. I get it. We get it. We understand. Weeble says, let's get to Weeble's comment. Weeble says, this is revenge, baby. We owe them boys an ass whooping. Off GP, he says. All right, we're going to see what happens. This should be fun. Again, it's going to be a really good contest because both of these teams, I think, are good enough to make it to the Super Bowl. And so we'll see what happens in that contest. Should be a lot of fun. Slip Ammo, my man Slip, what's going on? Slip says, you know I was going to mention the refs, LOL. They do the same in Pittsburgh. Yeah, you know, he's got his own set of gripes over there as a Cincinnati Bengals fan. And, you know, so we don't need to get into that. They probably could sit there and talk about that all night long. Eagle Speed is a fact says, I hope we destroy the Seahawks in the same way the Panthers did them last year in the first half. Remember that game got tight late, but yes, that was an ass whooping of epic proportions in the first half of that game. I want to say it was 31-7 at halftime, something to that effect. Yeah, that would be different, but I just don't see this Falcons team doing that kind of destruction and creating that kind of havoc in this football game. And the Seahawks are in a much different place in terms of their football team. Now, I think that Carolina Panthers team last year was a juggernaut, and so that's totally different. But we're going to see. We're going to see. I mean, this Falcons offense, no slouch, nothing to turn your nose up at. So we'll see. Sherlock Homeboy says, the refs drop passes, personal fouls, and false starts. Shaking my head. Paul Richardson was lit. Damn right he was lit, man. I don't know what the hell got into P. Rich, but that young fella out there was balling. He fly high, no lie. You know this. Balling. P. Rich was balling on those boys, man. Fade away. Perfect. I mean, good gracious. Who saw that coming? I damn sure didn't. I can't sit here and act as if I knew P. Rich was going to go out and ball. One-handed grabs galore. Going up, climbing the ladder, and snatching up balls in tight coverage. I couldn't have foreshadowed that, man. P. Rich was on his ish tonight. And if he can add to what they already have offensively with Graham and Baldwin and Curse, my goodness, they got some stuff. So we'll see what happens, man. Archangel says, can't wait until next week. A brother calling out of work because I got a seat basically right behind the Falcons bench, row 1, section 114, hashtag see me on TV, hashtag rise up. Hey, we're going to be looking for you, man. I'm going to need you to give us some kind of indication that it's you. But we gonna be. I'll look for you if you can give me a reason and a way to know that it's you. That's some good ass seats, bro. That's some real good seats, man. Hope your boys get it done for you while you're there, man. Eagle Speed is a fact says, I hope the NFL makes a rule where you can challenge a flag or a no call. That'll slow down the game too much. And that's the direct opposite of what they're looking for. So I don't think they're going to do that. The challenges are already slow as it is. I don't think they want to slow down the game. I know Bill Belichick has been asking for every call to be challengeable. I don't think the league is going to do that, however. Archangel also says, to be honest, Detroit didn't look like they belonged. I honestly think your Skins would have given a better challenge, but hey, that's just me. I do too, but it doesn't matter. We didn't deserve to be in the postseason. So the Lions did. They earned the right to get there. They beat us in the regular season, and that was the difference between us getting in and them getting in, and they got in, and they didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And so it is what it is. They moved the football in this game, which is the sad part. They moved it, but they had mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake that doomed them in this football game and stopped them from being productive and making this a closer ball game. Daniel Maddow says, this should have been the biggest line of the weekend. Detroit is terrible, and Miami matches up well against Pittsburgh, and they could win tomorrow. We will see, okay? At least Detroit had their starting quarterback. The Dolphins do not. And I know they have Jay Ajayi, and he ate the Steelers up the first time around, but that game was in Miami. That was a different Pittsburgh Steelers team. It's a different contest, and Matt Moore is at quarterback. This is the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Weeble says, I think the Lions just wasn't ready. That's possible. It's possible. I don't think it was a matter of not being ready. I just think that this was a big stage for them, and they simply didn't handle it well. You go out to Seattle, 12th man, it's loud, it's tough. You know, it's tough, and I didn't think they handled that situation as well as you would have liked to seen them handle it, and the scoreboard reflects that. Slip Ammo says, I didn't hear you well, but the last playoff game the Lions won was in 91. Was it 91? Did they win a game? You're right, because the Redskins destroyed those boys in the NFC Championship game on the way to winning their Super Bowl versus the Buffalo Bills. So you're right. They did win in 91. I think they actually beat the Dallas Cowboys in 91, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, it's been a while. They're 0-8 since 91, I think it was. Now it might be 0-9. So yeah, they haven't won a Super Bowl in 58 years, I think it is now. I think they said 57 was the last time they won a championship. So yeah, the playoff game they won was against the Cowboys, I want to say, in 1991. You're right. Wayne Fontes is their head coach at that time, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, Barry Sanders is at running back. So, yeah. And Robbie Sohal, thank you for that correction, by the way. Robbie Sohal says, Lou, that was their last road win. Last playoff win was against them boys in 91, I believe. Yep. It just came to my mind because I remember, like I said, the Redskins slaughtered those boys at RFK in 91 en route to going to the Super Bowl and defeating the Buffalo Bills. So it all came back to me once my man Slip dropped that dime on me, dropped that gem on my melon real quick. Then it all kind of just came back to me as to whether they had won. And yes, they had won. Man, that takes me back to the good old days. Weeble says, hey Lou, what's up, man? With all the drops today, everyone dropped. The world expects for Baldwin, bro. Catch the ball was not. He said the Baldwin catch was nice. No hating. Yeah. That Baldwin catch on the side, that was a hell of a throw by Russell Wilson. It was a great catch. That was a really good play by those two. Baldwin even had another great catch in the end zone when I don't think that football was for him. I think it was a curse. They had two guys in the same spot, and if he didn't catch it, Curse definitely catches it for a touchdown, and he catches that one with one hand. So, it was that kind of night for the Seattle Seahawks. They're catching stuff one-handed and making tough grabs to get their feet down in bounds, and the Lions can't catch simple passes inbounds where they don't have to worry about getting their feet down, and they don't have to catch it with one hand, and they can't make the catch. So it was that kind of night. It was like polar opposites, essentially. Archangel says, no, Lou, they said the last time the Lions won a playoff game, it was 91, and the last time they won a roll. I know, everybody's beating me up. I'm sorry, man. Blame that on the wine. I had about 6 or 7 glasses tonight. Blame that on the wine, man. It was 91, and I've already corrected myself. And yes, 57 was the last time they won a road playoff game, and they haven't won a Super Bowl in forever. And so, yes, guilty as charged, man. I'm sorry, man. Y'all go ahead and lock me up. I'm sorry for that. Rashard Hunt says, if you can improve on one position for the Lions and the Seahawks, where do you go? For the Lions, I think they need a big-time linebacker. I was so disappointed with the linebacker play. And DeAndre Levy used to be that guy for them. I don't think he's that guy any longer, or at least he wasn't tonight. I can't speak for him as far as what he's done this season. I know he came off of a couple of major injuries, so they just were disappointed tonight at the linebacker position. They did not get off of blocks. I didn't think they filled gaps correctly. I just thought that they allowed the Seahawks to have too much space up front. They created new lines of scrimmages, and, guys are getting double teamed, and then the linebackers, their job is to make sure that they don't scrape. And really that it starts at the defensive line. You don't allow guys to double team you and scrape to that linebacker. But that being said, the linebacker, if they're going to double team, you got to shoot the gap. You got to go make a play. And they didn't do that. They didn't fill properly tonight, and you saw the result of that. Guys lost contain on the outside, allowing Rawls to get to the outside. When they ran up the middle, there were opportunities there. And again, I just felt like they could use a nice upgrade at the linebacker position. Among other places, I'm pretty sure there are other places where Lions fans feel like they can upgrade their football team, but that's one in particular where I look at it and I say, okay, they could probably use another guy there. Probably cornerback position opposite of Darius Slay too. That probably would be a position that they would love to upgrade if they could. So I'd go with linebacker after seeing what I saw tonight. That would be my one. They need to get more pressure on the quarterback though. Ziggy Ansah got it done early, but remember, he only had like 1 or 2 sacks this season, which is really disappointing. And I know he dealt with a ton of injuries this year, but that's no here nor there. For the Seahawks, I think offensive line is still the issue. Even though they had a stellar night tonight, I still would love to see them upgrade. And I don't know if they really think George Font is their left tackle of the future. I can't speak to what their thought process is, but I can tell you this. Bradley Soule is not your right tackle of the future. So either way, you need another linchpin on that offensive line, whether it's left or right tackle. I still think that's the area of need. And even if you got a guy in the secondary, I mean, Cam Chancellor's getting up there in age. I think he's got like 1 more year left on his deal. Earl Thomas contemplating retirement. He already said he's coming back though, but just the fact that he uttered the R word lets you know that maybe it's in his brain a little bit. Maybe you need to draft another safety, somewhere down the line. But for me right now, offensive line is the priority for the Seattle Seahawks because you got to protect your investment in Russell Wilson, and I think offensive line would be the position that I would attack. Andrew Kim says, funny when Chris said that Seattle trade for OBJ and compared him to Paul Richardson. I actually said that he was making catches like him at halftime, which is he was playing like him. I mean, that's ridiculous. Those catches he made, that one in the end zone, though, that one knocked my socks off, man. Like, literally, my socks came off my feet. I'm playing. But it really blew me away because I couldn't believe he caught that. And yes, that was a face mask. And it's funny, I was talking to my man B.E., and B.E. had talked to me. I want to say B.E. had actually mentioned that in the first game, and I think I said this on the halftime show, that that they should have called face mask on the penalty in the first game, Raiders and Texans. And I told him, and I was talking to my dad about it. I said, they don't call penalty. When have you ever seen the officials call a face mask when in coverage? They just don't. And so he got away with one, but that's a hell of a catch, man. Pass interference or not, it's a hell of a catch. Lion Fire says, these 2 playoff games were like 2 Thursday night games. LOL. Hey, stop your nonsense, Lion Fire, man. They weren't that bad, okay? They were watchable football games. Some of those Thursday night games were unwatchable, seriously. These games weren't that bad, okay? Rashad Hunt says, you stupid, Lion Fire. By the way, I'm 2 for 2 in the playoffs so far. # let's go. Me too. I was like, me too, man. And I plan on going 4 for 4 after the Giants find a way to take care. Because I feel confident that the Steelers are going to take care of business. I could be wrong. Obviously, anything can happen. But the Super Bowl picks that I made before the season, Packers and Steelers, if my picks go the way that I think they're going to go, I'm not going to be right there because I think the Giants are going to go into Lambeau and win. I could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But you know my picks. Disco Jump Rope says, a blowout is coming Sunday, Louie. I have no worries after seeing tonight's game. Don't be overconfident now. Don't overdo it, Disco Jump Rope. Bossaholic says, the Falcons will be out for blood, not wins. We will see. We will see. RG3 hashtag smoking the 3 hashtag 1000 says, what if Wilson got injured in the first half and the O-line was trash all year, but hey, they did a good job. The O-line was outstanding tonight. And so if they can continue to do that, they're going to be a tough out, are the Seattle Seahawks moving forward. Captain Spartan 04 says, so Bolden has to retire now, right? He said this would be his last season. We'll see. If that's the way he retires, man, that's a stinky ass way to go out because he had himself a stinker of a ball game, had a drop pass, then turns around and follows that up with a personal foul penalty, then gets another one. He was a hindrance, not a help tonight. So I hope that was not his last game. But he's had a hell of a career, whether it is or it isn't. He still can play. He was a huge contributor to that Lions football team this season. I think there's still a lot of football left to be played, but it's all about his mindset. Does he still want to play or not? We'll see. Eagle Speed is a fag says, would you rather fight Ndamukong Suh or Thomas Rawls? Never drink wine again. Come on, man. I'm a wine connoisseur. Okay, I'm not gonna put down the bottle, man. I can't do it. But I don't want to fight either one of those dudes. But if I had to fight one of them, I probably would take Suh. You know why? Because I'm not gonna let him catch me. Thomas Rawls, I'm not gonna get away from that dude. At least with Suh, I said you gotta catch me first, bro. If he catches me, he's got me. He's gonna break me in half. But he's gotta catch me first, and I'm not gonna let his ass catch me. Like 50 Cent, like a wise man once told me, man, what you like 300 pounds? How you gonna catch me, son? Yeah, I ain't gonna let Ndamukong Suh catch me, man. It ain't going down. Robbie Sohal says, I'd be fine with another corner, pass rusher, or running back too as a Lions fan. I think corner is definitely something that you need to explore there. When Darius Slay was out versus the Cowboys, you saw what that did to your secondary. It's bad when one guy goes out and you can't sustain. So I think corner is definitely up there. Pass rusher is also something that I worry about with this football team, definitely, because they didn't get enough pressure. When Kerry Hyder Jr. is your leading pass rusher and sack getter, it's a problem. And that's not a slight against Kerry Hyder Jr. You're not supposed to be getting 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 sacks from Kerry Hyder Jr. and have him be the best you got. He's supposed to be contributing to that overall total, not being the guy that's holding it up. So, yeah, pass rusher, definitely. I don't think you need another running back. If AA is fine, and I don't know what his injury status is, if AA is fine, Theo Riddick's fine, and the Z-Man, Zach Zenner's fine, you got 3 running backs right there. I don't think you need to do anything else there, but we'll see what happens. You know your team better than I do. You should, at least. Your boss says, can't believe the Lions allowed this amount of running game. Seahawks always know how to draft. That was stunning to me, too. I just didn't see the type of production that they had at running back position in this game. But again, that's what the playoffs are for, and that's what playoff experience will do for you. Bossaholic says, will the Seahawks O-line keep it going against the Falcons? Hard to say. That's a performance that I really haven't seen from them this season. They really ran the football effectively in that game. They've had some moments this season where they've run it effectively, but my goodness, that was very impressive. And against a Lions team that hadn't been that bad against the run this season, that was really impressive. We'll see what happens. RG3 hashtag smoking at 3 hashtag 1000 says, would you rather fight Julius Peppers? What's up with you in this fighting, man? Are you on this fighting kick really hard? What's going on with you, man? This is my last fighting question for the day. You didn't ask me like 5 of these joints today, man. And I've been knocking them down left and right. This is my last one. I ain't got too much more fight in me. You like what I just did there? Odell Beckham Jr. or Julius Peppers? I go after Odell because Julius Peppers is athletic as hell. I can't run away from him. Even though he's still like 260, 270, I can't run away from J-Pep. He probably still hawk my ass down. I'd rather fight Odell. Even though he's crazy, I don't give a damn. All I got to do is catch him on his chin one time and he's down. So I take my chances with Odell. Captain Spartan 04 says, worst primetime game of the year is that Jaguars Titans game. The one where I went on live like during the second quarter and was ranting and raving about how Gus Bradley it was time for Gus to go. That was by far and away the worst. Because first of all, you don't want to watch Jacksonville, Tennessee. That's already number one. That's before Tennessee decided that they were good this season. So you're talking about two bad football teams at the point of that game. You came into that game saying, man, I don't want to watch this. And then when you see the ass whooping taking place, you're like, really? Man, it's got to be something else I can watch. So, yeah, that was the worst primetime game of the season for me. I can't speak for y'all. You know I don't like putting words in y'all mouth, but that was the worst one for me. Disco Jump Rope says, man, this man said that these 2 Thursday night games, LOL. See, Louie, I've been telling you about these games today on Twitter. They weren't that bad, man. They were not that. Lion Fire was over there tripping because the Skins weren't in the playoffs. That's all that was, man. He was throwing a little shade. It's all good, man. These were not that bad, man. You were at the store getting beer and stuff. It was not that bad. Trust me, man. These games were not that bad. Bossaholic says, some great games are coming next week. Some great games could be coming tomorrow. Who knows? I really firmly believe that 4 o'clock game is going to be a doozy with the Packers and the Giants. So I'm looking forward to that. And yes, next week, maybe those are going to be some great games. We'll see. We still don't know who's playing who yet, as tomorrow will define all of those divisional round matchups, as the Dolphins will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first game of the day, 6 versus 3 seed. And in the second game, that doubleheader on Sunday, the Giants will travel to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers in a 4-5 matchup in the NFC. That will determine who plays who, and we'll know exactly what the matchups are, and the times. Should be a lot of fun. In any event, Lion Fire says, yeah, I was throwing shade because the Skins weren't in it. You know me well, LOL. Of course I know, man. I knew what that was about, man. You don't got to tell me. I already know. With that being said, it's going to do it for your man Louie T here on this breakdown. Seahawks get it done 26-6 over the Detroit Lions. Run over them, literally. Run roughshod over the the Detroit Lions in this game. Thomas Rawls, big game. The running game, big game. Offensive line, standing OV for the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks as they get it done in this game. Russell Wilson, very efficient performance. Really turned it up in the second half, performed well as they run away with this game 26-6. Lions finish up the season at 9-8. Their offseason begins now. We'll see what kind of adjustments and changes that they make. But really solid start to John Robinson as the GM in his first year with the Lions, getting them to the playoffs. See how he does for an encore. A lot of those guys that he drafted last year contributed in year one. We'll see if he has a follow-up draft that resembles what he did a season ago. Meanwhile, Seattle moves on. We'll be taking on the Atlanta Falcons, a rematch of a regular season game that ended in controversy. Should be a lot of fun. A rematch of the 2012 NFC Divisional Round matchup, which was an absolute classic. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Seahawks moving on. Lions going home. I'll see you next time. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Same rules apply. I'm on Twitter during the game, tweeting live. I'm on at halftime live on Twitter, and we're breaking it down at the game's conclusion. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the games. Have a good one.
Broncos won the Super Bowl when Peyton Manning retired. 49ers won 5 games and Tom Sula got fired. RG's in Cleveland and my Rams hit the West Coast. Be sleepless in Seattle cause that 12-man ain't beast mode. Oh yeah, I knew it was something I forgot to mention. Yeah, old Tom Brady about to get that suspension. Yeah, I know the Pats fans probably think that's whack. Yeah, but at the end of the day, your balls was flat. It's that time again. It's that time again to go hard in the offseason, cause we trying to win. We gon' go so hard.